The ultimate journey. Episode 43. Hi, and welcome to The Ultimate Journey, Awakening to Spirit podcast. I'm your host, Frank DeGeneva. Today's episode is called It's the Law. Now, before we start, I want to say that this is for educational and fun purposes only, and don't take it too seriously unless you want to. Ever wonder why the justice system seems so unfair and crooked? You know, the innocent people seem to get screwed over while the criminals just walk away. I don't think the system is built for fair or us people, but by those that are in the club, so to say. This episode is going to be very, very controversial and a little bit of conspiracy theory-ish, so get your tinfoil hats on and enjoy the ride. Have you ever looked at the word law and wondered, maybe you haven't wondered, what it stands for, LAW? Well, not many people know that it stands for land, air, and water. And each jurisdiction has its own forms. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. The air is for the canon law, or I can never say this word right. It's ecclesiastical. So it governs all universal and global, and it's inclusive of everyone, regardless of what they believe in, their preferences, and it rules all the affairs regarding the surfaces of the earth and the heavens and all that. So that's the law of the air. It includes the living and the dead, but I'll get into that afterwards. Then you have the law of the sea, or the water, which makes sense. It's whatever. It covers all things on the surface of the water and beneath the water. It's the merchants, the law of the sea, basically. It's international for international citizens, and it rules all the affairs, as I said, all on the water or whatever. And it pertains to like sailors and merchants and all that stuff. But I'll get to that afterwards because there's so much I want to say. Then there's the law of the land. All three of these are divided into the realms of the living and the dead. The living is like the actual flesh and blood of living men and women. And the dead means all the organic entities who have died. And also, this is interesting now, it's all the legal fiction entities, including trusts, corporations, foundations, and cooperatives, and all partnerships, and all that stuff. Again, I'll get into that a little bit later on. But every natural man and woman that is born is considered in the private, whereas the government of the people is a public institution. You have the public servants, and all those creations are in the public, and that includes the artificial person, which I will tell you about too. It's, you can either, as a man or a woman, either live in the private or act in the public. And this is important to address the acting and statutes and all that stuff. So, where do I start here? So there's a difference between legal and lawful. Legal is a person is considered a legal entity or an actor. They can act as representatives for governments, banks, and all corporate entities. They're actors, basically. And they act in the roles of a legal person. So let's say there's a judge, and his name is Bob. Well, he is acting as a judge, but his living person is Bob, but he's acting in the role of judge. He's representing the corporation that hired him to be the judge. So this is an artificial creation. So, I hope you're following me, because this is it took me a while to figure this out. And once you get it, it's so cool. I want to just change gears a little bit and talk about the Triple Crown that control everything in our world. And the Triple Crown is the three-headed dragon, which is the Vatican, Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, and England. You know what that saying? They said all roads lead to Rome, because they do. So we have the Vatican, which is responsible for the law. England it represents the controls of the financial system, and then the District of Columbia is the military. Now, they are all independent. They're like countries within the countries. They're apart. Like the Vatican is in Rome, but the Vatican is the Vatican. It's not Italy or in Rome. Just like the District of Columbia is not the United States. It's its own city or corporation or company. And on a side note, the Federal Reserve is its own private company. It doesn't belong to the government. So anyway, that's a whole new rabbit hole, and I won't get into that today. What I will say, though, is that all governments are service corporations, like Service Ontario and all that stuff. Like, they're made to serve us. But what people don't know is they're made to serve us, right? They're to serve the public. And, they're no different than the McDonald's or any other corporation. It's kind of weird to wrap your head around this. It's like, wow, what are you speaking of, Frank? But, it's like the CEO of Canada or the CEO or the financial officer of Canada. They're people, right? But they're acting as the leaders. So an incorporation is considered a dead entity. And I'll get to that. Let's start off when we're born, because that's going to get you understanding what I mean by all of this. So here is where it gets really weird. It all starts off when we're born. We automatically get under the jurisdiction of maritime law. So for an example, when a ship reaches its destination and the captain orders his crew to prepare to dock. So a ship is called a vessel, right? So when it's docked, it's referred to as being berthed. So the ship hands then to unload all the cargo. But before they do, the crew has to unload the product to the dock operator, and they need to see the certificate of manifest. And this is the record of each product, which includes the registration number, country of origin, manufacturer, etc. Each parcel can then be sold or traded. So through this birthing process, and the ship goes to the dock. And so basically, when your mother, a woman's body, is the ship, and you're the vessel, and you were birthed from her birth canal. This is why ships are called she's. But what happened when you were born? You were born with a living birth certificate. Then they tricked your parents. The state tricked your parents into giving consent, so the state can have jurisdiction over you to create that corporation or that legal person. So, you were in the water. You were born in a seat of water, the amniotic fluid. So basically, technically, you're under admiralty in maritime law, or is known as the law of money, currency, the currency. That's another whole podcast that I would love to get into. So you were connected at the navel by the umbilical cord to the mothership, and naval is navy, which is part of the military. So you're born in a hospital and grabbed by the doctor, the dock operator. And, so basically, it's crazy. So in French, I think hostel, hospital in French is hostel, a shelter or lodging. It's also hostile, not a friendly place. Hospitals seem to be so sterile and unfriendly. It reminds me now of the Knights of the Hospitallers or Knights Templar, which is a private army of the Vatican. And the symbol, oddly enough, is the Red Cross. the Red Cross. So now we're getting to the gang signs of the secret societies. But anyway, so you are the baby. You're the product with the certificate of manifest. And you are given to a pair of renters, your parenters. And they unknowingly turn you into the product, and they sign you over. So when you're born, the doctor extracts the blood from your soul. The sole of your foot or mom's placenta. And basically what's happening here is your DNA is getting sequenced. Your genetics are getting stored, your blueprint. And, when you're born, a lot of times that your name is put in the paper, at least in the old days. And there's always an announcement. And so in the law of the sea, if no one claims you after 7 years, the government can pronounce you legally dead because you're lost at sea. But they don't tell our parents this. So when someone's lost at sea, like whoever claims you is claiming you. Like I mean, if your parents knew better, they would say no. Like, they wouldn't even sign you over. But yeah, so you're lost at sea. No one claims you, and you're missing and declared. I know it's like, whoa, this is crazy. So the government owns you now, and they create a fictitious person, and you notice that your name in the birth certificate is all capital letters. This is basically a corporation. You're bought and sold on the stock market, actually, which is pretty wild. I think you can look this up. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, and even Canada is a corporation. I could actually say the number. Look it up anyway. And it's a foreign corporation. It resides in Washington, and even the District of Columbia is under that. So before I forget, if your parents don't take good care of their product, or they don't take good care of you, Children's Services can take you away, or Children's Aid can take you away. Because your parents aren't your parents. It's crazy. And then getting back to the DNA, I think there are all this ancestry stuff, and find out where you're from is another attempt to bank and store or genetic sequences. It's all about DNA now, right? So when you do these tests, who owns your DNA? So you must be wondering, why would they do all this stuff? Well, in 1933, money was taken off the gold standard because America and Canada went bankrupt. And basically, where we are the collateral, and a birth certificate is the bond. So we're the corporations, as I said, under the jurisdiction of Admiralty law. Can't remember say that word right. And we're sold on the International Money Fund, the IMF, I think it is. So we're stock. We're basically traded on the stock market, and we're the livestock, or the living stock, like cattle. We're basically we're debt slaves to the system, and the system gets money off of us, through the banks, the courts, getting fined all that time. I could always say that when you write a check, you're writing it against your corporation. But anyway, that's a whole different ball of wax there. But getting back to the birth certificate, if you look at it closely, there's a number on it. It's called the CUSIP number, which stands for the Committee on Uniform Securities Identification Procedures number. It's on the back of the birth certificate. So we're worth a lot of money. And when we're born, the government or whoever make an estimate on our future earnings, how much taxes we'll pay over a lifetime and that. And did you know that all the taxes we do pay, I think it's federal income tax, I believe it is, goes off to London and the Vatican, believe it or not. Actually, 40% goes to London, and the 60% goes to the Vatican. It's the Commonwealth. You get it? Our common is their wealth, the Commonwealth. Wealth. Man, I can't speak today. And, all the laws and stuff there and the courts, and they're just basically ways to get money from us. They charge us. The court is a bank. It's a collecting agency. So is, the legal system. They charge you. These are your chargers. A battery of charges, I'm going to start getting into other etymology with a prison cell, and it's all energy. You get bailed out. It's all water. It's incredible. I could just keep going on and on with all this stuff, and I'd love to, but it gets so far down the rabbit hole. It gets really, really, really crazy. But I want to just finish off with this with our social insurance number. For Canada, it lasts until we retirement ages. It's like 65 or 70. That's why they want us to retire after then, because our birth certificate expires then too. So, we're not worth much anymore. We're like useless eaters now. That's another rabbit hole as well. They're just going to find different ways to tax us and, extract more energy and money from us. Pretty soon they're going to tax our farts because we're going to, take away from the environment or something. And I'm not even joking where it's all going to now. Okay, let's get back into the law again. Aside from the land, air, and water, there are 3 other types of law within the court system. One is the UCC, the commercial law, where what you get fined and you pay. They take your money. Then you have the Vatican law, or the High See, Admiralty law, which is not common law. Is called canon law. It's the Vatican law. This is where they can put you in jail and stuff. And then there's a third one, the Talmudic, I think it's called Talmudic law, and it's the ball. It's from the Bible. The priests of Baal, that can actually sentence you to death. Now, when you swear on the Bible, there's got to be something in that Bible that gives the bar the authority to surrender your rights, because I don't know if my God lives in that Bible. That's another discussion. But the Bible, there's two balls. I'm trying to say words without saying them, so those that know will know what I'm talking about. So when you go to court, the first thing the judge is going to trick you to do, or try to make you agree to, is to your fake name, to your corporate name. The corporate, in Italian, corpo means a corpse. Corporation is death. So to your dead self, your legal person, not your living man or living woman person. And the lawyer is there to represent, not represent, but represent you from the living person to the fictional legal person. Otherwise, they have no jurisdiction. So you got to be this little game they play. You never say your name as in the capital letters, because then you're giving up your sovereignty, and you're entering into a contract with them. Just like you sign a mortgage. Again, in Italian or Latin, morte means death. So 25 years in sentence. You basically mortgages are for 25 years. They own you. And that's a 25-year sentence in jail as well. It's all connected. It's a death sentence. So when you concede to their jurisdiction, the legal aspect, you're basically entering an agreement. So whenever you get pulled over by the police and you hand them over your identification, your corporation, your your capital letter name, you're basically entering in a contract saying, hey, I'm this person, I'm this fictional person, and we can engage in a contract. And a lot of times they say, do you understand? When you understand, you're under that, you're under the stand, you're under them. So you are under their jurisdiction and you're in agreement with them. So you have to be careful about that. Just like the judge is trying to trick you into surrendering your fictional names when you say you understand. With any corporation, if you basically sign anything with your well, you shouldn't sign. Signature is a fictional world, and autograph is a living world. That's a whole nother thing too. So contract makes law. You have to consent to it. And if you look at God's law, or the natural law, the law of the land, there's basically some basic rules. I mean, in every religion you have don't do unto others as you don't want to be done unto yourself, or do unto others as you want to be done unto yourself. So with natural law, you cannot harm or create damage to another person's property or anything. So basically, where you stand in your power, you stand in your square, is with us, nobody, no man or woman can claim another man or woman property, and no one could administer that property without having a right to do so. And if you don't have a contract with the Surface Corporation or anything with a handshake, you don't consent. There's no deal, And then, if you're accused of a crime other than, if you have a verified claim against you, if you've trespassed against anybody, if you wronged them, stolen the property or whatever, done any harm, that's basically the only laws that we are really punishable by, and we should be punishable by, an eye for an eye kind of thing. You have to decide who you're going to follow, who's going to govern over you. Personally, to me, my boss, my is creator, God creator, whoever created me, giving me the rights to, inalienable rights that cannot be taken away from me. Anything that's given to you that can be taken away is a privilege. And, we're privileged by other than God. So basically, you have the universal law, the God's law. And then we're governed by the laws of nature. Gravity, jumping off of a cliff, you're going to splat to the ground. Then you have the private, as I said, the private standing, not the public standing. It's a common law where you cause no harm, loss, or fraud to another living soul. So yeah, and then you get into the legal stuff, the law of the sea, the commercial law, the contract law, the merchant law, the maritime admiralty law, and you get on to those, get statutory acts, you get bills, codes, regulations, and all these, isms and stuff, the legalese that is the game is played under, the debts, and it's amazing. So as I said, contract makes the law. And if you don't sign it with your wet your wet autograph, it doesn't mean anything. And if there's any laws that are made and you're not there, they don't apply to you unless you consent to them. So all I believe my rights and my Constitution, that's all bullshit, because you weren't there when they wrote them. You didn't co-sign on that. So we have to be careful when we say, it's not my rights. Your rights are what are given to you by the Creator. If you look at the word government and you break it down, you have govern and ment. So it basically means governing means to control, and mente is mind. So it's mind control. So you're not a dead thing, and the government can only control something that's dead. You are a living, breathing human being, and you have natural rights given to you by, as I said, unalienable, and you're incapable of being alienated, sold, or transferred, right? Your natural rights are superior to all laws made by government. Government has no jurisdiction over the living man. Just the death, the legal, the dead, right? So we live in two worlds, so we have both. We're administrators of the account of our corporation, which is our name, all in capital letters, right? Just never say you're the legal name. Basically, we're on a ship. We're citizens on a ship. The citizenship. Canada is the water. Canada is also a corporation, as I said. Everything is on a ship. Authorship, battleship, censorship, championship. It's just fellowship, friendship, hardship, internship, membership, partnership. It's scholarship, sponsorship. It's crazy. On a warship, and the ownership too is like ownership. Whenever you sign over, you register. I don't know if you know what register means. Regis is king or queen. It's royalty. So whenever you sign something over, you're signing your car over or whatever you're signing, you're giving up your right to it. It's not your property anymore. You're allowed to have it because it's a privilege, something that they can take away from you if you don't behave. And they made laws like that in 1455. They had the Romanus Pontifex. It's a law where they can take away your real estate, where you don't own your land. And then in 1481, I think it was, the Etreni Regis, where they own us, it makes people slaves. And in 1531, it was I think it's called the Convocation, where they can take away our souls. Now I'm getting really, really crazy now. But, getting baptized is we're giving away our power. And that's the whole thing with what's going on now. So, are you following man's law or God's law? Now, if you're following God's law, then no one's under you. It's just between you and your Creator. So these people that are trying to administer you, you have to ask them, are you above God? Are you under God? If they say that they are the law, they are God, then there's no jurisdiction. They can't do anything. and they can do it by force, but then that's an act of terrorism. They can, it's violence. So, it's, the choice is yours. I mean, we live in, and I'm not talking about bucking the system and, going with these free men bullshit and challenging the system. We live in this system, okay? And, if you want to go against it, power to you. I'm not one of these free men of the land or anything like that, because that's just too much resistance. We've come to this planet. We've kind of subconsciously or, got a soul contract, agreed to play this game. If you want to escape, you just revoke every contract you've done, like every single one, your marriage, your tax, your any religious contracts. We're duped into things that we don't even know. We sign contracts, tacit agreements, contracts that we don't even know at all. As I said in another last episode, is what are you making deals with? Who are you making deals with? What are you entering contracts with people? So, and it's the same thing with consenting, signing up to these digital IDs, and I don't know. To me, again, your choice is yours. No judgment here. If they can take our identity away with the birth certificate, what are they doing now with the genetics, with the DNA that they're collecting from us? This ancestry and all these, experimental things that they're doing to us, new technologies. I mean, if they own the patents, right, and they're changing us with their patents, are we even human beings anymore? Are we changing? You're going to follow AI, artificial intelligence, or you're going to follow DI, divine intelligence. As I said, the choice is yours, and just be careful and be mindful of what you consent to, what you're in agreement with who. Just remember, we are sovereign human beings, not corporate fictions. Living people exist in the real world, not in the fictional one or virtual reality, which is coming. Right? So our government only exists in a fictional world. And, the only way we can bind to that is through agreeing through contract. And as I said before, with the contract, if anybody tries to control you or, administer you, basically, you ask them and say, hey, man, do you own me? No. Do I own you? No. Can we control each other? Can we administer something you can't own? No. Especially if you don't have any right to. And there's no contract. There's, your handshake is a contract. Used to be solid. Now there's nothing. So no contract, no handshake, no deal. And, if someone accuses you of doing something wrong, you have to have a verifiable claim against you. Did you hurt somebody? Did you kill somebody? Did you steal something? Did you damage something? Like in the Bible, it says, love thy neighbor, but don't get caught. Did you covet another man's wife? I'm trying to be silly here, but I'm just trying to lighten things up. And we're getting to the end of this now because I just feel like I'm blabbing. And I hope I didn't get you down too crazy rabbit holes, but it's just something to think about. And, not something to be kind of a warrior or renegade. It just, the more information we have, the better we can make our decisions and choose to what we want to engage with or contract with. So next time you're encountered an authority that's acting as someone representing the corporation, if you don't have a binding contract, they have no jurisdiction over you. Again, as I said, if you commit a crime under natural law, then you got to be hung for it, and that's it. The rest is just games, fines, legislation, codes, hoops to run through so they can take our money and even our life force, our energy by keeping us in fear. There's always an invisible boogeyman. If you've noticed, there's always something that's going to get us. And when we're in fear, we give up our control and we let other people's rule over us, the rulers. We are our own rulers. We are, the monarchy is inside, not outside, So anyway, again, blabbing. Thank you for joining me on this episode of It's the Law. I'm your host, Frank Genova. Thank you for listening to the Ultimate Journey Awakening to Spirit podcast. Join me again next time for more spiritual talk. You can reach me at info@theultimatejourneyawakeningtospirit.com. And you can also visit my website, theultimatejourneyawakeningtospirit.com. Until next time, walk in love and in gratitude.